Captain Daesung stood on the observation deck of his trade vessel, watching the massive alien station grow larger in the viewport. The Horizon's promise had made this run 17 times before, hauling Earth's manufactured goods to the Veltharan trading posts. 23 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council, and trade had made both species wealthy. Daesung trusted these runs. He trusted the aliens. He had even brought his family this time. His wife Hana pressed against the window beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. Their daughter Ji-woo bounced excitedly between them, her small hands leaving prints on the glass. The 8-year-old had begged for months to see an alien world. Daesung had finally agreed. It seemed safe enough. The galaxy had welcomed humanity with open arms, or so everyone believed. The docking procedures took an hour. When the airlock finally opened, the familiar smell of the station filled their lungs. It was metallic and strange, but not unpleasant. Alien merchants moved through the corridors. Their bodies shaped differently than humans, but their purposes the same. Trade, profit, survival. Daesung held Ji-woo's hand as they walked through the market district. Hana stopped frequently to examine alien artifacts and strange foods. Everything changed when Hana wandered into the wrong corridor. Daesung heard her scream before he saw what caused it. He ran, pulling Ji-woo behind him, his heart hammering in his chest. He found Hana frozen in a doorway, her hand over her mouth, her face completely white. Beyond her, in a massive warehouse space, humans stood in cages. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. They wore metal collars that sparked with electricity. Their clothes were torn. Their eyes were empty. A Veltharan merchant approached, its translator device clicking. "You are interested in labor assets? We have excellent stock from the outer colonies. Very obedient. Very durable." Daesung could not speak. His mind refused to accept what he was seeing. These were humans. His people. In cages, being sold like animals. "How?" Hana whispered. "How is this possible?" The merchant seemed confused by the question. Trade Statute 447B. "Of course. Your species is classified as Class 3. Sentient property. Surely you know this. Your council representative signed the agreement 6 years ago." Daesung's blood went cold. 6 years ago, Ambassador Taemin had negotiated new trade agreements. Everyone on Earth celebrated the increased commerce. Nobody mentioned slavery. Nobody said humans were being bought and sold across the galaxy. He grabbed Hana's arm. But Ji-woo had pulled free. She stood at one of the cages, staring at a young woman inside. The woman's eyes met the child's, and something passed between them. Recognition. Humanity. A silent plea for help. "Daddy," Ji-woo said quietly. Before Daesung could answer, alarms began to sound. Security drones dropped from the ceiling. The Veltharan merchant's expression changed from confusion to anger. "You are disrupting commerce. This is illegal." "Illegal?" Daesung shouted. "You are selling my people. Your people are property." The merchant replied calmly. "As designated by the Galactic Council. Your presence here violates market regulations." Daesung grabbed his family and ran. They sprinted through the corridors, the alarms screaming around them. Other aliens watched with curiosity, but did not help. Why would they? This was legal. This was normal. This was how the galaxy worked. They almost made it to the ship. The Krovan slavers appeared from a side passage. They were massive creatures, built for violence, and they moved with terrible purpose. Daesung fought. He broke one's jaw and shattered another's limb, but there were too many. They separated him from his family with brutal efficiency. He watched helplessly as shock collars were locked around Hana's and Ji-woo's necks. "No!" he screamed, struggling against the restraints. "They are not property. They are my family," the lead Krovan laughed. "They are valuable assets, the young one especially. She will bring a fine price on Velthar Prime." They dragged Hana and Jiwoo away. His daughter was crying, reaching for him. His wife fought until they activated her collar, and she collapsed in convulsing pain. Dae-sung screamed until his voice broke. The Krovan released him hours later with a warning. He was lucky, they said. As a ship captain with proper documentation, he had rights. His family did not. Dae-sung returned to Earth broken. He went directly to the Council embassy, demanding to see Ambassador Tae-min. The ambassador looked older than Dae-sung remembered. More tired, more defeated. "I know," Tae-min said before Dae-sung could speak. "I know about the slaves. I have been protesting for 6 years. Then why did Earth not know?" "Because the Council suppressed every communication," Tae-min explained. "They control the transmission networks. They decided what information reached Earth. When I signed those trade agreements, I did not know what the fine print contained. By the time I discovered the truth, it was too late." Tae-min showed Dae-sung the reports. Over 2 million humans had been taken from colony worlds, mining stations, and exploration vessels. They were scattered across 40 different civilizations. The Galactic Council had debated the issue in closed sessions and reached a decision. Humanity was too aggressive, they said. Too violent. Too dangerous. Humans lacked psionic abilities, which marked them as inferior. The solution was to classify humanity as property and allow their sale to civilizations that could control them properly. Earth's government had been trying diplomatic solutions for 6 years. Nothing worked. The Council was absolute. Their laws were final. To resist would mean economic sanctions, isolation, and possibly military intervention. "So we do nothing?" Dae-sung asked, his voice hollow. Tae-min's expression hardened. "I did not say that. The government has plans, but they take time." Dae-sung left the embassy and walked through the streets of Seoul. He looked at the people around him, living their normal lives, completely unaware that millions of humans suffered in chains across the stars. They did not know their children could be taken. They did not know the galaxy viewed them as animals. That night, Dae-sung made a choice. If the government needed time, he would give them time. But he would not wait passively. He began gathering information. He contacted other ship captains. He spoke with families of the disappeared. He built a network of people who knew the truth and refused to accept it. 3 days later, Dae-sung received a message from an encrypted source. It contained only coordinates and a time. When he arrived at the location, he found Colonel Hyun-woo waiting in an unmarked facility beneath the city. "Captain Dae-sung," the colonel said, "we have been watching you. Your family was taken. You want them back. We can help each other." "How?" Hyun-woo smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Earth is preparing a response. When we move, we will need people who know the slave routes. People who have seen the markets. People who have nothing left to lose and everything to fight for." Dae-sung understood immediately. This was not diplomacy. This was war. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. "Survive," Hyun-woo replied. "Get stronger. Learn everything you can about the slavers. And when the time comes, help us burn their empire to ashes." Dae-sung nodded slowly. Above them, Earth continued spinning peacefully. But deep in hidden facilities, in secret meetings, in the hearts of millions who now knew the truth, something else was building. Humanity was preparing an answer. And when it came, the galaxy would learn what happened when peaceful people were pushed too far. 6 months passed like a slow nightmare. The Galactic Council finally responded to Earth's formal protests with a document so cold and bureaucratic that it felt like mockery. They offered humanity a choice. Accept the loss of the enslaved humans as an unfortunate cultural misunderstanding, or face complete economic isolation from galactic trade networks. They provided compensation calculations. Each human life was valued at approximately the same price as a standard cargo hauler. Minister Jae-hyun read the document to Earth's Security Council in a conference room 50 meters below the surface. Nobody spoke for several minutes. Finally, Admiral Soon-hee stood from her chair. She was a small woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen 3 wars. She looked at each person in the room before speaking. "We accept their terms," she said calmly. The room erupted in protests. Minister Jae-hyun raised his hand for silence. "Admiral, explain. We accept publicly." Soon-hee continued. "We make diplomatic statements about regrettable misunderstandings and cultural differences. We bow our heads and appear to comply. Meanwhile, we prepare the actual response." She activated a holographic display. It showed ship designs that nobody in the room had seen before. Weapons that should not exist. Technologies that Earth supposedly lacked. Protocol Darkstar, Soon-hee explained. "We have been building this for 11 years, since the first rumors of human disappearances reached military intelligence. The civilian government knew nothing. The Galactic Council knew nothing. We have spent 11 years preparing for the possibility that the galaxy was not what it seemed." Minister Jae-hyun studied the display. His hands were shaking slightly. "This is a war fleet. Yes, if we use this, thousands will die. Millions are already suffering," Soon-hee replied. "And every day we delay, more are taken. The question is not whether we act. The question is when." Minister Jae-hyun authorized the operation that same day. Earth's public response to the Galactic Council was humble and accepting. Behind the scenes, humanity mobilized for war. Dae-sung spent those months learning everything the military intelligence network had gathered about the slave trade. He memorized routes, studied market locations, and reviewed security protocols of 40 different civilizations. Colonel Hyun-woo trained him alongside 300 other volunteers, all people who had lost family to the slavers. They were not soldiers, but they were motivated in ways that professional military could never match. In a laboratory complex in Norway, scientist Bora made the final adjustments to humanity's secret weapon. The quantum disruption torpedo had taken 8 years to develop. It bypassed every known shield technology in the galaxy by existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously until the moment of impact. When it exploded, it collapsed those states into a single devastating release of energy. The aliens had never seen anything like it because they had never needed to. Humanity's official technology level was centuries behind the galactic average. The aliens did not know that humanity lied. Earth had discovered the quantum principles 3 decades earlier, long before first contact. When humanity joined the Galactic Council, the government made a decision. They showed the aliens what they expected to see. Simple fusion drives. Basic energy weapons. Nothing threatening. Meanwhile, in hidden facilities on Earth, Mars, and the orbital stations, humanity built an entirely different arsenal. Admiral Soon-hee inspected the fleet in the Oort cloud 18 months after Dae-sung's family was taken. 200 warships floated in the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, invisible to galactic sensors. Each ship was crewed by volunteers. Each crew knew they might not return. Nobody cared. They had all lost someone. On mining colony Terthos 9, Hana worked 14 hours each day in tunnels that would kill an unmodified human in minutes. Her collar prevented escape and delivered punishment for any slowness. She had watched 17 humans die in the month since her capture. She dreamed of Jiwoo constantly, wondering where her daughter had been sold, whether she was alive, whether she remembered her parents. Hana did not know that above the planet, human intelligence drones recorded everything. They mapped the security systems, counted the guards, and identified the power sources. Humanity was coming. They just needed a few more months. On Velthar Prime, Jiwoo lived in a gilded cage in the Crown Prince's palace. She was not forced to work in mines like her mother. Her slavery was different, but no less cruel. She was a curiosity, an exotic pet for a prince who collected rare things. She wore expensive clothes, and ate expensive food, and cried herself to sleep every night. She was 9 years old, and she had learned to hide all emotion from her face. It was the only way to survive. The Galactic Council grew comfortable during those 18 months. Humanity had accepted their place. The slave trade continued, and even expanded. Some council members proposed lowering humanity's classification to Class 4, which would make breeding programs legal. The debate was scheduled for the following year. In his office on Geneva, Ambassador Taemin received daily reports from Admiral Soon-hee. He spent his days making pleasant diplomatic conversation with alien representatives. He discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges and peaceful cooperation. Every word was ash in his mouth. But he smiled and played his role. The aliens never suspected that behind his diplomatic courtesy was cold, calculated rage. Colonel Hyun-woo assembled his strike teams in the final weeks before the operation. Dae-sung led Team 7, composed entirely of former ship captains and traders who knew the alien stations intimately. They practiced breaching techniques until they could do them blindfolded. They studied maps until they could navigate alien facilities in complete darkness. They prepared to become weapons. Scientist Bora delivered the final weapons shipment ahead of schedule. Along with the quantum torpedoes, she had developed null field generators that could disable alien electronics in a 3-kilometer radius, and AI-guided hunter drones small enough to fly through ventilation systems. Humanity had spent centuries developing weapons to kill other humans. Adapting them to kill aliens required surprisingly little modification. The final briefing took place in the war room beneath Geneva. Every ship captain attended via secured hologram. Admiral Soon-hee stood before them in her full uniform, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of humanity's accumulated rage. In 72 hours, we launched simultaneous operations against 87 targets across 12 sectors, she began. Our objectives are simple. Retrieve every human. Destroy the infrastructure that enables the slave trade. And send a message that can never be misunderstood. She paused, looking at each captain. The Galactic Council believes we are weak. They believe we will accept injustice to maintain peace. They believe we are animals that can be bought and sold without consequence. In 72 hours, we teach them the truth. Dae-sung listened from his position at the back of the room. He thought about Hana in the mines. He thought about Ji-woo in her golden cage. He thought about 2 million humans scattered across the stars, suffering in silence while the galaxy profited from their pain. Some of you will die, soon he continued. Some of your crews will not come home. But every human we rescue will know that Earth did not abandon them. That humanity does not forget. That we protect our own, regardless of the cost. She raised her hand in salute. We retrieve our people, every single one. And we make sure this never happens again. The assembled captains returned the salute. There were no cheers, no war cries, just grim determination and righteous purpose. Humanity was going to war, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. Minister Jae-hyun authorized final launch protocols. Earth's civilian population still knew nothing about the fleet or the operation. When they learned the truth, some would protest. Some would call it excessive. Some would argue for diplomatic solutions. But those decisions were above his authority now. The military had operational control, and Admiral Soon-hee would not stop until every human was free or Earth itself was destroyed in the attempt. Dae-sung returned to his quarters and wrote a letter to his family. He did not know if they would ever read it. He did not know if he would survive to deliver it personally, but he wrote it anyway, pouring out everything he could not say in person. He told Hana that he loved her. He told Ji-woo that Daddy was coming. He promised them that no matter what happened, they would be together again. He sealed the letter and placed it in his locker. Then he put on his combat armor and went to join his team. 72 hours remained. After that, the galaxy would burn. The human fleet emerged from quantum jump at exactly 0300 Galactic Standard Time. 87 locations across 12 sectors saw human warships appear in their space simultaneously. The aliens had no warning. Their sensors detected nothing until the humans were already there. Weapons armed. Shields raised. Broadcasting a single message in every known language. Release the humans. You have 1 hour. On the mining colony Terthos 9, the facility commander received the message and laughed. He was a Thalaxian, a species that had been raiding weaker civilizations for 800 years. Humans were nothing. Their military was primitive. This was clearly a bluff. He sent a response, demanding the human ships withdraw immediately or face destruction. The human response came not in words but in fire. Captain Min Su commanded the strike carrier, Retribution. His ship carried no cargo, no trade goods, no peaceful intentions. It carried 300 Marines, 50 drop pods, and enough quantum torpedoes to level a small moon. When the mining colony refused to surrender, Min Su gave the order, without hesitation. The torpedoes hit the facility's shield generators first. The aliens had invested heavily in defensive technology, shields that could withstand nuclear strikes and particle beams. The quantum weapons passed through those shields as if they were paper. The generators exploded in cascading failures that lit up the night sky. The Marines launched immediately. Daesung rode in the lead pod, his team strapped in around him. The descent took 90 seconds. The pod hit the ground hard enough to crack the surface, and the doors blew open before they fully stopped moving. Daesung was out first, weapon raised. Scanning for threats, the aliens had mobilized their security forces. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons designed to subdue slaves without killing valuable property. Against trained Marines in full combat gear, they lasted approximately 4 minutes. Daesung moved through the facility like a force of nature. He had memorized every corridor, every checkpoint, every guard station during those 18 months of preparation. His team followed his lead, clearing rooms with brutal efficiency. They were not here to fight a war. They were here to rescue their people. The slave compounds were in the deepest levels, where the heat and radiation were strongest. The aliens kept humans there because they were expendable. If they died, more could always be purchased. Daesung kicked open the compound doors and found himself staring at 400 humans in various states of injury and despair. For a moment, nobody moved. The slaves stared at the armored Marines as if they were hallucinations. Then someone recognized the flag patch on Daesung's shoulder. Earth, the symbol of home. "We are taking you home," Daesung announced. His voice cracked slightly. "Everyone who can walk, move to the surface. Everyone who cannot, we will carry. We leave nobody behind." The evacuation took 22 minutes. The Marines formed defensive perimeters, while medical teams triaged the wounded. Daesung moved through the crowd, searching desperately for familiar faces. He found 3 people from his home city. He found 2 who had served on trading vessels he had worked with. He did not find his family. In menace, incented, a woman approached him as they loaded the last group into transport shuttles. She was young, maybe 20, with scars from poorly healed injuries covering her arms. Her name was Yuna, and she had been an engineer on an exploration vessel. Before the Krovan captured her, "You are looking for someone," she said quietly. "My wife. My daughter. Have you seen them?" Yuna shook her head. "I was sold separately. But I heard things. The Krovan sell children to the Veltharan nobility. They pay premium prices for young humans. Automorment is non. If your daughter was taken by Krovan, that is where she would be." Daesung felt something cold settle in his chest. "And my wife? Women are usually kept in mining colonies or pleasure stations. If you do not find her here, check the other facilities. We will help you search." The Retribution received reports from other strike teams as they left Terthos 9. Of 87 targets, 83 had fallen within the first hour. 4 had attempted to fight. None of those facilities remained intact. Humanity had promised to retrieve their people, and they were doing it with overwhelming force. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session 6 hours into the operation. They demanded humanity cease military actions immediately. They threatened sanctions, blockades, and collective defense responses. Admiral Sun-hee broadcast her reply to every planet in Council space. Humanity offers terms, she said, her voice completely calm. Return every human within 30 standard days. Those who comply will face only economic penalties. Those who resist will be treated as hostile forces. Those who harm humans during this period will be shown no mercy. These terms are not negotiable. Half the council representatives left the session immediately to contact their home governments. The other half began drafting military response plans. Several smaller civilizations started releasing their human slaves that same day, desperate to avoid humanity's wrath. The Krovan warlord Thexus was not one of them. Thexus commanded the largest slave trading operation in 3 sectors. He owned 17 processing facilities, 40 transport ships, and had personal connections to the highest levels of the Galactic Council. He had been selling humans for 6 years and had become extraordinarily wealthy doing it. He was not about to surrender that income because primitives were throwing a tantrum. He mobilized his private military fleet and sent them to protect his core facilities. 40 warships, heavily armed, crewed by experienced soldiers. Thexus believed humanity's success was due to surprise. In a real battle, the humans would break. Captain Min-Su proved him wrong. The battle at Krovan Prime lasted 7 hours. The Krovan fleet outnumbered the human strike force 4-1. They had better shields, faster ships, and more experience in combat. None of it mattered. The human weapons were simply too advanced, their tactics too aggressive, their determination too absolute. When a Krovan destroyer disabled one of Min-Su's frigates, the frigate's crew set the reactor to overload and rammed the destroyer at maximum speed. Both ships vanished in a ball of plasma. When Krovan Marines tried to board the Retribution, they found themselves fighting humans who would rather die than retreat. The Krovan had fought hundreds of battles. They had never fought anyone like this. Thexus watched his fleet destroyed from his command station on the planet's surface. He began evacuating as human Marines breached his facility. He almost escaped. Dae-sung found him in a private shuttle, desperately trying to start the engines. The warlord was enormous, twice Dae-sung's size, armored in combat plating. He drew a plasma rifle as Dae-sung approached. "You cannot kill me," Thexus snarled. "I have diplomatic immunity. The council will protect me." Dae-sung shot him in both knees. The warlord collapsed, screaming. Dae-sung walked forward slowly, his weapon pointed at Thexus's head. "The council is not here," Dae-sung said quietly. "Only me. And you took my family." He pulled the trigger 3 times. When Colonel Hyun-woo found him minutes later, Dae-sung was sitting on the shuttle ramp, staring at nothing. His hands were shaking. "Did you find them?" Hyun-woo asked. "My wife. She was here. She is alive." The reunion happened in the medical bay of the Retribution. Hana had lost 20 kilograms, and her hands shook constantly from nerve damage caused by the shock collar. She could not speak at first, could only hold Dae-sung and cry. When she finally found words, the first thing she asked was about Ji-woo. "Sold," Dae-sung told her gently. "To Velthar Prime. 3 months ago." Hana's expression went from relief to despair in seconds. "Then she is gone. The Veltharon nobles never release their property. Never. Fatheron. The Veltharon. All time. Then we will take her back," Dae-sung replied. "Earth is not finished." Across the galaxy, humanity's liberation campaign continued. Every day brought new victories, new rescues, new examples of what happened when humans were pushed too far. The smaller civilizations surrendered quickly. The larger empires prepared for war. And on Velthar Prime, Crown Prince Velicus received news that humans were coming. He looked at Ji-woo, playing quietly in her gilded prison, and made preparations. If the humans wanted her back, They would have to burn his entire world to get her. He did not believe they would dare. The Veltharan Empire had stood for 3,000 years. Humanity was barely a century into space exploration. He was about to learn that age meant nothing against rage. Day 31 arrived like Judgment Day. 730,000 humans remained enslaved across the galaxy. Most were held by three major powers: the Veltharan Empire, the Drokan Hegemony, and the Scytheron Collective. These civilizations had rejected humanity's ultimatum with contempt. They commanded millions of soldiers, thousands of warships, and controlled vast territories. They believed humanity would not dare attack them directly. Admiral Sun He proved them wrong. Earth's full fleet emerged from quantum jump at the edge of Veltharan space. 200 warships arranged in battle formation, each one broadcasting the same message: "Release the humans, or we will take them by force." The Veltharan response was swift and arrogant. Their entire defense fleet mobilized to meet the humans at the border. 600 ships, commanded by admirals who had never lost a battle, crewed by soldiers who believed their empire invincible. They saw the human fleet and laughed at the audacity. The first engagement lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, 400 Veltharan ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet lost 23 vessels. The ratio shocked the galaxy. This was not supposed to be possible. Humanity was centuries behind in technology. Their victories so far had been attributed to surprise and luck. This was neither. This was simply humanity fighting with everything they had. Admiral Sun He did not pause to celebrate. Her fleet jumped directly to Velthar VII, the crown jewel of the empire, where the royal palace housed countless humans as slaves and trophies. The Veltharan Home Guard scrambled to defend their capital world. They threw everything they had at the human fleet: energy weapons that could crack continents, missiles that moved faster than light, shield technology that had defended them for millennia. The quantum torpedoes tore through it all. General Sang Wu commanded the ground invasion. His forces numbered 50,000 Marines, supported by orbital bombardment and AI-controlled attack drones. The Veltharan military was larger, better equipped, and fighting on their home territory. They also had never faced an enemy that fought with such absolute determination. The Marines hit the ground in 12 locations simultaneously. They moved through Veltharan cities like a storm, targeting military installations, government buildings, and slave compounds. Civilian areas were avoided when possible, but the humans made it clear they would accept no obstacles. Every hour of delay meant more humans suffering. Daesung landed with the assault team tasked with the Crown Palace. It was a fortress, designed to withstand siege warfare. Protected by the Empire's best soldiers, the human approach was simple and brutal. They landed drop pods directly through the palace shields, crashed them into the upper floors, and fought their way down floor by floor. The Veltharan guards were skilled warriors, trained since childhood for combat. They fought with honor and discipline. The human Marines fought like demons. They used grenades in close quarters, collapsed walls to create new paths, and refused to retreat even when wounded. This was not a battle to them. This was rescue. Daesung cleared 17 rooms before he found the residential quarters where human slaves were kept. Some were servants. Some were entertainers. Some were simply curiosities collected by wealthy nobles. All wore collars. All looked at him with the same desperate hope he had seen on Turthos 9. "Where are the children?" he demanded. An older man pointed with shaking hands. "Crown Prince's quarters. Top floor. He keeps the special ones there." 2. Daesung ran. Behind him, his team secured the rescued humans and established evacuation routes. Ahead of him, more Veltharan soldiers tried to block his path. He killed them without slowing. Somewhere above him was his daughter. He reached the Crown Prince's chambers to find the door sealed with emergency protocols. Daesung attached breaching charges and blew the entrance open. Inside, Crown Prince Velekis stood near a balcony, holding Ji Woo by the arm. The girl looked older than Dae Sung remembered. Her face was carefully neutral, showing no emotion. That broke his heart more than any injury could have. "One step closer and I kill her," Velekis said calmly. His translator made his voice sound human, which somehow made it worse. "I know you came for this property, but she belongs to me. I purchased her legally. Your attack on my world is criminal." Dae Sung raised his weapon, aiming at the prince's head. His hands did not shake. "Let her go!" "Why would I? You will kill me anyway. At least this way. You lose what you came for." Ji Woo spoke for the first time. Her voice was quiet but clear. "You can shoot him, Daddy. I am not afraid." The prince's grip tightened. "Foolish child. You think your father would risk hitting you? He will not miss," Ji Woo said with absolute certainty. "My daddy never misses." Dae Sung took the shot. The prince fell backward. A hole burned through his skull. Ji Woo stood perfectly still for a moment, then ran to her father. He caught her, armor and all, and held her while she finally cried. 9 years old, and she had survived hell alone. But she had survived. She had believed he would come. Outside the palace, the battle for Velthar VII continued for another 8 hours. The Veltharan military fought bravely, but they were not prepared for the human approach to war. When human forces captured strategic locations, they did not hold them defensively. They pushed forward immediately, never allowing the enemy time to regroup. When human soldiers were wounded, they refused evacuation until their objectives were secured. The Veltharan had never seen such fanaticism. By nightfall, the capital had fallen. The Veltharan government surrendered unconditionally. Across the planet, human search teams located every slave compound, every private collection, every hidden facility. They found 4,000 humans on Velthar VII alone. Some had been enslaved for 6 years. Some were children born into captivity who had never seen Earth. While Velthar fell, simultaneous campaigns raged across 40 other star systems. General Sang-woo's forces were not the only ones engaged in liberation operations. Humanity had divided its fleet to strike everywhere at once, ensuring the enemy could not concentrate their defenses. The Drokan hegemony learned this the hard way. Fleet Marshal Korthax commanded the Drokan response. He was a brilliant strategist who had won 3 interstellar wars. When he received reports of human attacks, he immediately recognized the danger. Humanity was not fighting a conventional war. They were fighting a liberation campaign, and that required different tactics. Korthax gathered the largest fleet he could assemble and attempted a counterstrike directly at Earth. If he could threaten humanity's home world, they would be forced to withdraw their scattered forces. It was sound strategy. It was also exactly what humanity expected. Earth's defense network had been prepared for months. When the Drokan fleet emerged from Quantum Jump, they found themselves surrounded by weapons platforms, automated defense systems, and humanity's reserve fleet. The battle lasted 2 hours. The Drokan lost everything. Marshal Korthax died when his flagship was split in half by 3 quantum torpedoes hitting simultaneously. His final transmission was broadcast across the galaxy. "They are not warriors. They are monsters. Run." The message had its intended effect, just not the way Korthax had hoped. Across the galaxy, civilizations that still held human slaves began releasing them immediately. Nobody wanted to face what the Veltharan and Drokan had faced. Nobody wanted their world to burn. The Galactic Council convened again, this time in full panic. Half their military forces were destroyed or in retreat. 3 major empires had collapsed or surrendered. Humanity showed no signs of stopping. The council representatives demanded negotiations, peace talks, anything to halt the human advance. Ambassador Taemin attended the session in person for the first time in months. He walked to the council floor, surrounded by human marines, and when he spoke, his voice carried no diplomacy at all. "Humanity offered terms 31 days ago," he said coldly. "You rejected them. You called us primitive. You said we would not dare fight. Now you beg for peace after we have done the fighting for you. I have a counteroffer. He activated a holographic display showing every council representative who had voted to legalize human slavery, every civilization that had profited from the trade, every official who had dismissed Earth's protests. These individuals and governments will face war crimes tribunals on Earth, Taemin continued. They will answer for every human they enslaved, sold, or harmed. Any civilization that refuses to extradite these criminals will join them in judgment. The council chamber erupted in protests. Taemin ignored them. He had spent 6 years begging these beings for help, for compassion, for basic recognition of humanity's rights. They had given him nothing but bureaucratic contempt. Now he gave them justice. Earth did not want this war, he said quietly. You forced it upon us. Now live with the consequences. Back on the retribution, Dae-sung held his family in the medical bay. Hana was recovering slowly from her injuries. Ji-woo barely left his side, terrified of being separated again. They had been reunited, but the scars remained. The trauma would take years to heal, if it ever fully did. Colonel Hyun-woo found them there and delivered the latest reports. 723,000 humans recovered. 7,000 confirmed dead. The numbers were better than feared but worse than hoped. When do we go home? Hana asked quietly. Soon, Hyun-woo replied. We have just a few more operations. Then Earth recalls the fleet. Dae-sung looked at his daughter. She was playing with a small toy someone had given her, trying to remember what normal felt like. He thought about the millions of aliens who had enabled her suffering. He thought about the council that had legalized it. He thought about the price that would be paid. It is not over, he said softly. This is just the beginning. 3 years had passed since the first hammer fell. The galaxy that existed before was gone, replaced by something humanity had built through fire and blood. President Yoon-ji stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly and looked at the beings who had once called her people property. Some of them met her eyes. Most looked away. The war crimes tribunals had taken 18 months. 40,000 individuals were prosecuted for their roles in the slave trade. The trials were public, broadcast to every world in council space. Evidence was presented in exhaustive detail. Recordings of auctions where humans were sold, financial records showing profits from slave labor, testimony from survivors describing conditions that would have been unthinkable in any civilized society. The convictions came swiftly. Some received imprisonment. Others faced execution. A few civilizations had attempted to protect their citizens from extradition. Those civilizations were now human protectorates, their governments dissolved, their military disbanded, their futures determined by Earth. 47 alien governments had collapsed during the war. Some fell to human military action. Others collapsed from internal revolution, as their own populations learned what their leaders had done. 12 civilizations requested human administration, preferring occupation to the chaos of rebuilding alone. Humanity accepted reluctantly, understanding that abandoning these worlds would create power vacuums that could lead to even worse suffering. The reformed Galactic Assembly was smaller than the original council. Many species had been expelled permanently. The rules were different now, written by humans with painful experience of what happened when might made right. Slavery of any sapient species is hereby classified as a crime against civilization, President Yoon-ji read from the new charter. Any government that permits, enables, or profits from slavery will face immediate sanctions, followed by military intervention, if compliance is not achieved within 30 standard days. This law is absolute and applies equally to all species, including humanity. The assembled representatives voted unanimously to adopt the charter. They had no real choice. Earth's fleet enforced the peace, and nobody was prepared to fight humanity again. 3 years of conflict had proven what happened when humans went to war. Entire battle fleets destroyed. Ancient empires brought to their knees. No species wanted to be the next example. In his home in Seoul, Dae-sung tried to find normal life again. He had retired from active service after the war ended, accepting a position training the next generation of search and rescue specialists. The Galactic Patrol, as it was now called, operated under human command and was responsible for enforcing anti-slavery laws across known space. Hana had returned to work as a xenobiologist, though she focused now on trauma recovery in formerly enslaved populations. Her hands still shook sometimes. She still woke from nightmares, but she was healing, slowly, and she helped others heal too. Ji-woo was the hardest. She was 12 now, old enough to remember everything but too young to fully process it. She attended school with other survivors, children who understood what she had been through because they had survived similar horrors. Some days were good. Some days, she could not get out of bed. Therapy helped, but there was no quick fix for what had been done to her. One evening, the family sat together for dinner. It was something they did every night now, a ritual of normalcy that helped remind them they were safe. Ji-woo picked at her food, quietly. "I had the dream again," she said finally. Dae-sung reached across the table and took her hand. "The palace?" She nodded. "But it was different this time. In the dream, you did not come. Nobody came. And I just stayed there forever. But I did come," Dae-sung said gently. "We all came. 200 ships, 50,000 Marines, and everyone was coming for you. And people like you. You were never alone. I know. But what about the ones you did not find? The ones who died before you got there?" The question hung in the air. Dae-sung had no answer that would satisfy her, because she was right. 7,000 humans had died during the years of slavery. They had been worked to death, killed for disobedience, or simply discarded when they were no longer profitable. Earth had avenged them. But vengeance did not bring them back. Ambassador Tae-min, now serving as Earth's consul general, dealt with that question every day. The memorial on Earth listed every name, every person lost. Families visited it constantly, looking for closure that did not exist. The government provided support, counseling, compensation. None of it felt like enough, but life continued anyway. Because it had to. One of the few positive developments was the relationship with the Silurian people. Their representative, Speaker Threndel, had been the only council member to consistently oppose human slavery. When the war started, Threndel had secretly provided intelligence to human forces, helping them locate hidden slave compounds. After the war, Threndel worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. "Not all of us approved," Threndel told Taemin during one of their regular meetings. "Many of us were horrified by what was done to your people. But we were outvoted, and the council operated by majority rule. Your war changed that. Now there are actual consequences for injustice. At the cost of 89,000 human soldiers," Taemin replied. The number haunted him. Every day of the war, he had watched reports of casualties, knowing each number represented someone who died because diplomacy had failed. "Would you have preferred to leave your people in chains?" Threndel asked. "No. But I wish it had not required war. I wish the galaxy had chosen compassion instead of profit." "The galaxy is learning," Threndel said. "Slowly, painfully, but learning. That is the best we can hope for." The economic impact of humanity's rise was staggering. Earth controlled the most advanced military technology in known space, and they were not sharing it. Trade agreements were renegotiated with humanity holding all the leverage. Some species prospered under the new system. Others struggled with the loss of their former power. A resistance movement had emerged on several worlds, groups that wanted to restore the old council and remove human influence from galactic affairs. They saw humanity as conquerors, not liberators. Earth's intelligence services monitored these groups carefully but did not suppress them unless they became violent. President Unji understood that freedom included the freedom to oppose the government. "We did not fight a war for freedom, only to become dictators," she told her Security Council. "Let them protest. Let them organize. As long as they do not restart the slave trade, they can hate us all they want. Number 2. One Klam. Admiral Soon-hee disagreed. Tolerance is admirable, but we cannot allow another war. The fleet must remain strong. The fleet will remain strong, Yoon-ji confirmed. But we will not become the empire we destroyed. There has to be a balance. Finding that balance occupied Earth's government for years. They built schools on occupied worlds, teaching alien children about rights and freedoms. They funded economic development to replace the profits formerly generated by slavery. They trained local security forces to maintain order without human troops present. It was expensive, exhausting work that many humans questioned. Why should Earth pay to rebuild civilizations that had enslaved their people? The answer was pragmatic. Leaving power vacuums would create chaos, and chaos would inevitably harm humans traveling through those regions. Dae-sung understood this better than most. He traveled frequently for his work with the Galactic Patrol, and he saw the changes firsthand. Worlds that had been slave markets were now rehabilitation centers. Facilities that had housed human prisoners were converted to schools. It was not perfect, and resentment simmered beneath the surface. But it was better than what existed before. One day, he received an unexpected visitor. Kite had been enslaved on the same facility as Hana. He was a former soldier who joined the liberation forces after being rescued. Now he worked as a settlement coordinator on Velthar VII, helping rebuild the former capital. "I wanted to show you something," Kite said, leading Dae-sung through the city streets. They stopped at a plaza where a monument had been erected. It showed a human figure breaking chains, reaching upward toward the stars. At the base were carved the names of every human who had been enslaved on Velthar VII. Hannah's name was there. Ji-woo's name was there. The Veltharan survivors built this, Kite explained. Not all of them supported what their government did. When the truth came out, many were horrified. This is their apology. Dae-sung traced his daughter's name with his fingers. Does it matter? An apology does not erase what happened. No. But it is a start. And maybe that is enough. That evening, Dae-sung returned home to find Ji-woo teaching her younger cousin about the stars. The girl was 3 years old and had been born after the war. She would grow up in a galaxy where slavery was illegal, where humans were respected, where the mistakes of the past were remembered but not repeated. "Uncle Dae-sung," the child asked innocently, "why are the stars important?" Ji-woo answered before he could. "Because our family fought to make sure everyone could look at them freely. The stars belong to everyone, not just the strong." Dae-sung watched his daughter, seeing traces of the trauma she carried but also signs of healing. She would never be the same as she would have been without her captivity, but she was alive. She was home, and she was finding purpose in making sure others did not suffer as she had. President Yoon-ji addressed the reformed Galactic Assembly one final time before her term ended. She looked at the representatives, both human and alien, and spoke plainly. "We did not want to be your warriors," she said. "We did not want to be the ones enforcing peace through military might. You made us into weapons when you decided our people were property. Now you live with what you created." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But we are more than weapons. We are also teachers, healers, and builders. We offer you a choice. Work with us to create a better galaxy, or be left behind while we do it without you. Those are the only options." In orbit above Earth, Admiral Soon-hee's fleet maintained its eternal watch. The ships were crewed by volunteers, people who had lost family to the slavers and would never forget. They kept watch so others could sleep safely. They enforced the peace so children could grow up free. Dae-sung looked at the stars one night, holding Ji-woo's hand. She was taller now, almost a teenager, carrying scars that would never fully heal. but also strength that would never break. "Do you think it is over?" she asked quietly. "No," he answered honestly. "There will always be those who see profit in suffering, but they know now what happens when they target humans. They know we remember. They know we protect our own." "Good," Jiwoo said firmly. "Let them be afraid. Let them always be afraid." Humanity had not wanted war. But when war came, they had fought with everything they had, and in the aftermath, they built something new. Not perfect, not utopian, but better than what existed before. The galaxy learned a lesson written in fire across 100 worlds. Humans could be peaceful. Humans could be diplomatic. Humans could be reasonable and patient and willing to compromise. But if you took their children, if you put their people in chains, if you treated them as property instead of persons, humans would show you what fury looked like. They would shatter empires. They would rewrite laws. They would burn everything that supported injustice and build something better from the ashes. The galaxy would never forget, and humanity would make sure of it.